Of the California Housing Financing Agency Board of Directors, December 3rd, a little bit after 10 a.m. How about a roll call?
Okay, Ms. Avila Farias. Ms. Gallagher. Ms. Gunn for Secretary Imbassiani.
Here.
Mr. Gunning.
Here.
Mr. Hunter. Ms. Johnson Hall.
Here.
Mr. A.G. for Treasurer Ma.
Here.
Mr. Olmsted for Director McCauley.
Here.
Secretary Podesta.
Here.
Mr. Prince. Mr. Russell. Ms. Sotelo. Ms. Hegg for Director Gordon.
Here.
Ms. Miller for Director Bosler. And Ms. Boatman-Patterson.
Here.
Chairman, we are shy one member to establish a quorum.
All right, well, why don't we continue, though, and start the meeting, and we'll wait for Anna Maria to get here, and hopefully it'll be soon. Did anyone have a chance to look at the minutes? I think they were sent out, but then, as you guys know, we moved up the public comment period to item 7. So there was the new version that just reflected that change, but I think they're fairly accurate. With that, any comments from anyone from the minutes? Seeing that, then deem them approved. Moving to item number 3. I don't have any comments, Madam Executive Director, but you may have some.
I have a few.
A few, okay.
Governor Newsom announced the reappointment of 3 of our board members, so I want to send out congratulations to Ms. Tina Johnson Hall,
Yay.
Delilah Sotelo, and Preston Prince, who will be serving a 6-year term through 2025. So we're very happy and pleased with that. Also, we didn't get a chance last board meeting, but I do want to introduce Sheena Coe, who is our new credit officer, and Andre Massey, who is our new deputy director of multifamily programs. So if they'll both stand. So, and you know, Kate, we brought on August.
Yes.
And so this is the first time the leadership team in multifamily departments has been fully staffed in over a decade. And so I am so pleased with this powerhouse of women who's leading our multifamily efforts. Also, we did announce CalHFA's mixed income program. We had a robust discussion on that during the last board meeting. And so updated for 2020, we incorporated several of the changes that we heard back from some of the very good comments that we received. A summary of those include the simplified developer fee requirements by making them consistent with the TCAP requirements, the reduced debt service coverage ratio requirement under the PERM first lien, inclusion of other subordinate debt or subsidy at CalHFA's discretion, change the mixed income program occupancy requirement from the 61 to 60% AMI to be consistent with the 10% tranches that we had heard back, change the rent restriction on higher AMI units from 7% to 10%, change the maximum loan per restricted unit to be $50,000 for units 50% to 80% AMI. Originally, that had been 60 to 80, and we heard back that they would like the MIP subsidy to go down to 50% AMI. And if you remember historically, that's kind of been where the cutoff has been. CalHFA serving 50% AMI and above, where HCD has generally and historically served 50% AMI and below. And then lastly, we eliminated the MIP final commitment date in the readiness section. And so far over the holiday weekend, we've received 3 mixed income program applications. So in December, we will begin our 2021 business planning. Our first meeting with our leadership team will take place this month. You know that that's our off-site meetings that we have to prepare our annual business plan. We recently added a new board workshop on Thursday, December 19th And this will be an opportunity to have Richard Froelich, who is the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President and General Counsel to the New York City Housing Development Corporation. He also drafted the 2008 Housing and Economic Recovery Act, which was authorized by Congress, and recycling of prepaid multifamily bonds while not counting against the state's volume cap. So having Rich come and give us a briefing on bond recycling programs, I think that's something that the State Treasurer's Office is very interested in having hearings, especially since we're reaching our capacity and those have become competitive. So invitations will be going out to our sister agencies, the governor's housing team and legislative staff and other partners, and to come and listen in on that workshop and provide some critical feedback. So planning ahead for the March 17th board workshop, we will have our guest speaker, which is Richard Rothstein, the author of The Color of Law. I know, Mr. Chair, you met with him.
That's right.
And you were anxious to get him back. We had extended an invitation last year. And so I think it would be really nice to have him come and give his discussion on his book, The Color of Law. And if you board members do not have a copy of that book, we can provide you with a copy of that book. And I did get to hear him in Davis last week, and he was absolutely phenomenal. So he's out of Berkeley.
Local.
Right. So if you don't have a book, please let Melissa know so that she can get you a copy of The Color of Law, so that because I would like to have a robust discussion when he's here in March. Lastly, we have a couple of events coming up. December 8th through 10th is the special National Council of State Housing Agency Board of Directors meeting in Washington, D.C. I'll be attending that. December 11th is the SIDLAC TCAC meeting to discuss the 2019 applications for reservations of 4% low-income housing tax credits. December 12th, we will be having a joint HUD, CalHFA, HCD, Business Consumer Services Housing Agency coordination meeting, which will be hosted here in Sacramento. And January 28th through 30, Freddie Mac Housing for Tomorrow Council meeting, which I have been asked to sit on their new advisory council for Freddie Mac, which is one of our government-sponsored enterprises. And then I have a speaking engagement on January 9th in Los Angeles with the Housing Justice of LA panel. And so those are kind of the upcoming events, and that concludes my remarks.
Awesome. Thank you, Tia. All right. Any comments or questions from board members? Great, let's get into it and begin with item number 4. Kate and Steve, why don't you come up and let's talk about Pennis Place.
Planus is first, correct?
Yeah.
Good morning, Chairman Gunning and Board. Happy holidays as well.
Good morning.
My name is Steve Beckman. I'm a loan officer here at CalHFA. So, a couple of comments, brief overall comments about what we're doing here. These two transactions are part of a series of 8 that CalHFA will work with Burbank Housing on. And they're all in our portfolio. They'll all be refinancings with various amounts of rehab to the buildings as needed. And then Burbank has a vision of taking the equity out in all of these and accumulating it and replacing housing stock that was lost in the Tubbs fire 2 years ago in Sonoma County. So when I finish with West Oaks, I'm going to have Larry Florin and Jeff Moline, the CEO and CFO respectively, come up and share more about Burbank's vision and give you some more detail about how they're going to use the equity. But it's a great tool to replace lost housing stock that was destroyed in this fire. And then I additionally want to add that the next 5 that we're doing, had HCD financing in them. So in a collaborative effort with HCD, we were able to facilitate the refinancing as well on the next 5. So some of these subsequent 5 you may see depending on the loan amounts. If they're north of $4 million, they will come to you and you will hear them. If they're less, then we will approve them at the senior loan committee level. So the first of the 2 is Ponus Place. And this one will have some rehab in it. So Ponus Place is in Santa Rosa. It's a 66-unit family project. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. All of them are restricted at 60% AMI and below, some at 50. CalHFA has sized a loan of $6.4 million for this refinancing. And the funds will be used for the various purposes. It'll pay off an existing CalHFA loan of about $2.6 million. There will be about $358,000 of yield maintenance. And the P&A showed that there's $450,000 of immediate work that needs to be done to the building. So that's about $7,000 a door for this project. And then we will build reserves. We're going to build a full 50% operating cost reserve of $453,000 and some change. And then the replacement reserve of $66,000 was sized on taking the existing reserve plus what will be set aside over the term of the loan. And with the additional $66,000, will meet the requirements of the 20-year replacement study from the P&A. So there's, as I mentioned before, there's about $450,000 in a scope of work. We'll set aside $45,000, which is 10% for a contingency. And then there's, in financing costs, which includes some CalHFA costs, there's about $252,000 of financing costs. So that leaves $2.1 million in equity that this project will generate for the purpose of rebuilding housing stock in Sonoma County. The only other thing of note, there are additional locality loans that are on title. Those loans, we've already spoken to the locality, and they have agreed to extend their terms out as long or past the new CalHFA financing, and they will, of course, be subordinate. We will use HUD risk sharing as credit enhancement on this transaction. And then we sized it, pursuant to underwriting based on the appraised value. We can only go to an 80% loan to value. And then the other constraint is the cash flow. This will have a 35-year amortization due in 30. And so it cash flows first year at 117. So the underwriting is good on this. Are there any questions on Ponus Place?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I do want to, it wasn't listed in the memo, but I do want the board to be aware that equity out on a HUD risk share does require a HUD waiver.
Correct.
And those used to be fairly routine. However, we submitted a HUD waiver to allow us to do equity out, to allow us to do 55 to some of our senior projects instead of 62, to allow it to be 55. And there was a third thing we asked for, a definition of substantial rehab. Yes. But we submitted that waiver in June, and we have yet to receive that waiver. And it has been problematic that they have moved so very slowly on giving waivers, which used to be fairly routine, especially on something as simple as a equity out. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the board, that we have been working very closely with HUD and asking them almost on a weekly basis on the status of those waivers. And then when we have our joint meeting with HUD, we will be bringing that up with Region 9 as to what seems to be the holdup in these fairly routine waivers, because they do affect the pricing and the financing, because we do are able to offer a better rate on our perm financing when we do have that HUD risk share credit enhancement. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the board.
Let me talk about that. Any other questions on this proposal? Steve, I just had one under potential problems or mitigation, you listed the inability to raise rents on that. Can you expand on that? Project weaknesses with mitigants?
Yeah, there's two things going on right now. One of which, Burbank, they're very mission driven. So in the past, they haven't raised rents maybe to keep up with AMI increases. The other thing that's going on specifically in Sonoma County, which is a product of Governor Brown's administration, when they had the fires, they constrained rent increases. Now that's going to burn off here pretty soon, and maybe when Mr. Florin comes up, and I'm going to have Mr. Florin and Mr. Moline come up, he can explain maybe even a little bit more of that and Burbank's plan for increasing rents. We just included it as a caution.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, the other concern is with AB 1482 going into effect, the CHU bill on rent caps. The
Yes.
impact of that too, so.
I do believe affordable housing is exempt. Regulated affordable housing is exempt from
Should have known that.
rent caps.
Good. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none,
Let's have Mr.
you want to come
Florin
up
come
now?
up? Or did you want to wait until
Till next
after?
project.
Wait till
Okay.
West Oaks, yeah,
Sorry
because
about that.
they'll give the bigger picture and
Okay,
they can obviously answer all your questions. I think they even have some things that they'd like to share with you.
Great, why don't we take a motion, knowing we don't have enough votes? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
Teresa, second? All right, should we hold off, Melissa, and wait? Thank you, council. Let's move to the second project, Steve.
Yes, and that's West Oaks. So West Oaks is a little bit smaller project. It's 53 units. It's also in Santa Rosa, in Sonoma County, as mentioned. It also, too, is a family project comprised of 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. It has locality funding as well, and this actually has some deeper targeting. There are some units at 30% AMI in this project, too, along with the 50s and 60s. So in this project with the underwriting, we started out at a 1.16 first-year debt service coverage ratio for the same term as the other, a 35-year amortization due in 30. We have a 1.16 first year. And so given that cash flow and then also to the 80% loan-to-value constraint, we sized the loan on this project at $4,750,000. So walking through the uses, as in Pontus Place, the big difference here between these two is that this project is in a lot better shape. Both projects are in good shape, but this just requires a lot less work. There's only about $50,000 of immediate needs. So that's very minor on this project. So we're going to pay off the current CalHFA loan of about $2,300,000. There's some yield maintenance as well, $271,000. As I mentioned, there's about $50,000 or $55,000 worth of immediate needs. And then as with Pontus, we're going to build a 50%, which is the max operating expense reserve. And then what's a little different in this one too than Pontus is the replacement reserve that we're going to capitalize is much larger. It's $465,000. So this is, once again, it's a product of the existing replacement reserve plus the $500 per unit that will be set aside over the term of the loan. And then in this project, more of the needs were spread out over the next 20 years. So we're capitalizing enough in replacement reserve to take care of all of the needs over the next 20 years. And that's why that one's a little bit bigger. Cost of financing on this, including CalHFA fees, is $203,000. So that leaves equity produced by this transaction of $1,075,000. And once again, this equity will join the equity from Pontus and the the 5 other transactions. And then just another note too, we're going to try to time the closing on all 8 to be within a shorter period of time so that we can do maybe a single bond issue, which will save costs, financing costs on that, and basically pass on some savings to Burbank as well. And that'll be Q1, maybe the end of Q1, or maybe a little bit later. Let's see here. There really isn't anything of note. Once again, yes, there are a couple of Santa Rosa Housing Authority loans, just like the on Ponus. Those terms will be extended out to at least as long or further than the CalHFA loan, and then will be subordinated.
Yes.
Steve, if you could remind the board of the factors that we use to determine our equity out policy. The board will recall that over the last several years, we've tightened up the parameters of the policy framework of when we will allow. It was very important to the board. So if you could quickly go through the factors of under what conditions.
Yes. Now, I wish I could recite you word for word from our underwriting manual, but the main thing is that any existing CalHFA debt needs to be paid off. We won't do a loan larger than 80% loan to value. And then the equity out needs to be used for additional housing stock. We want folks to deploy it for a housing stock. But those are the main. There are other factors that we consider.
Longer term of affordability.
Correct.
So we're either extending the term of affordability or getting deeper affordability as a result of the equity out as well.
And that's the other main one too. Correct, yeah.
Hey, why don't we have the principals come up now?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Larry Florin, I'm the CEO and president of Burbank Housing. And I have to tell you, this is really exciting to be here. I had a conversation, I remember, with your executive director about 1.5 years ago now, or how long, I can't remember how long ago it was. But and at that time, we were really struggling with the idea of how do we refinance what really was going to be the rebuilding of the North Bay, in our case, Sonoma County, specifically after the Tubbs fire. Burbank has been a nonprofit in business in Sonoma County since 1980. We'll be celebrating our 40th year next year. We were actually started by the county government as a 501c3 nonprofit to really be the public housing agency, in essence, for the county. Spun off, and we've been independent since 1995. But our mission has been exclusively focused on affordable housing in the North Bay since that time. And we have built over 5,000 units of affordable housing. We currently have about 3,500 units in our portfolio. And we also do home ownership projects. And we have 100 units under construction right now and 1,000 all total that we've built in both Sonoma and Napa County. What the proceeds from these refinancing will do will be very specifically help us on some rebuilding projects that we currently have underway. We had a huge demand. It's not a great secret to tell you throughout the state of California, but certainly in the North Bay, even before the Tubbs fire came in 2017 and wiped out 5,400 units of housing. At that time, we had about 12,000 people on our waiting list, waiting for housing in Sonoma County. That number is now up to 15,000 we have on our waiting list. And so we took it as our mission, working in conjunction and partnership with local government, to start rebuilding efforts where we could. And the constraining factor was, of course, the equity or the funds that we could use to get the project started. These particular projects, the revenue will go to help facilitate the development of projects we have in Santa Rosa and in Sonoma County. Specifically, one that is of great interest is a project called Journey's End, which was a former mobile home park. If you remember back And I know there's so many disasters that have occurred over the last couple of years, it's almost hard to remember back. But in 2017, the Journey's End Mobile Home Park was all but destroyed. 160 units of mobile homes on that site. They were all folks in there were on fixed income, mostly Social Security. 117 of the 160 units were destroyed. 3 people died in the fires. We have worked out an agreement with the owner of the property, and we're redeveloping that site for 161 units of senior affordable housing. The proceeds from this will go directly towards being able to facilitate and move that project along. So we greatly, greatly appreciate the support of CalHFA. And I just have to also commend the staff that has worked on this. They have worked really, really hard, and they've worked, it's been a great partnership. Let me just put it that way. From Tia and Don and Kate and Steve, everybody has been incredibly helpful and supportive and worked through the issues that are there. So I just want to commend them, the staff, for working with us on this. And happy to answer any questions you have. Jeff Molina, our Chief Financial Officer, is here too, if you have any specific financial questions that may come up.
Questions?
I have a policy issue that I think it's important that we as the state of California recognize, and as our policy and thought leaders, I wanted to bring it to your attention. If we using our current systems, all of the bonds, all of the tax credits, everything that we use to finance affordable housing, we would produce about 25,000 units a year, using every dime of tax credits.
Say that one more time.
Using every dime of tax credits, every bond, using our existing systems of the way we finance affordable housing, you're not ever going to get more than about 25,000 units of housing. Unless we fundamentally change the way we do business in the state of California when it comes to financing affordable housing, you will never have enough resources to get more than 25,000 units a year. So allowing equity out as a policy to allow private capital to come in provides an alternative way of financing outside of those existing systems that we may strongly want to, as a state, consider whether we want to allow that to happen. Because several of our programs have made it extremely difficult for our development partners to access their private capital that they have tied up into their affordable housing, thus limiting our resources that are able to put back into affordable housing. And so I just bring that to the attention of the board because I think that's a significant policy issue as we try to strive to reach the governor's goals of housing production. 25,000 units is a drop in the bucket. It is nothing. It is nothing. But I'm telling you, given everything that we've got under our existing systems, that's what you get. And I think we need to frame that in a way that we let the public know and let everyone know, giving everything we've got under our existing systems, we'll never have more than this. So we do need to have serious policy conversations about fundamentally restructuring the way we finance affordable housing.
Yes, Teresa.
I just want to concur with that opinion. You and I were having that conversation the last time we were here. I mean, I've been digging through legislation for other means, and one thing that keeps bubbling up throughout the legislation, and I've gone all the way back to the early 40s, was homelessness and housing affordability is our #1 critical issue. And we've been putting money into it and trying to fund it at a state level in the same processes and means that we developed in the 60s, and we're not achieving those goals. I agree with you 100%. We need to look outside of the boxes we've already built. We need to start looking more innovatively on how can we incentivize and build affordable housing.
Larry, I'm aware that Assemblyman Gallagher is doing a town hall in the first part of January or end of January, first part of February, because he passed AB 430, so which does some expediting. So he's looking for builders. So I'd certainly like to get your contact information and make sure you're invited in part of that conversation, because this is wonderful work. And you're to be commended for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else from anyone else? Great. How about a motion for
Item 6.
item 6?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Why don't we wait until we get Anna Maria? Have you texted her?
I
Should
have. I've
text
tried
her?
to reach her and I've had no answer. And also, that was item number 5, if I could have a correction on that motion.
No, we did a motion and a second on item 5, and that was item 6, wasn't it? Or
No,
item 4 and 5, yes.
Correct.
So item 4 and 5, we had a motion and a second, and we're waiting for a quorum.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
great. Next item. Boy, in the hot seat already, huh?
Good morning. My name is Sheena Ko, a credit officer. I am thrilled to be here this morning and to introduce my very first project on behalf of the multifamily division. Super excited. And I just wanted to let you know that the developer, McCormick, Barron, and Salazar, we have 3 individuals from that organization. They are here this morning. And I believe, Pauline, are you planning to speak or give a little bit of a, oversight? Would you like to do that now or after? Maybe you can do it now. Yeah. Okay, Pauline.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Pauline Old with McCormick, Barron, Salazar. I'm also here with our Vice President, Adi Nagraj, in the back, and Jimmy Lee, our Finance Manager. We have been working on this project for over 2 years now with the staff, and again, we also have had a great relationship working with the staff and excited to be here today. Bernal Dwellings is 160 units in the Mission in San Francisco. And as a native San Franciscan, I am so proud to be working on a project where we're preserving 160 units for families in San Francisco, especially since we're facing one of the biggest housing crises that's not only locally anymore, but regional to a lot of places. Definitely here to answer any more questions along those lines, but we're hoping to close this deal in the next couple of weeks and would start construction first quarter of next year.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so Bernal Dwellings is an existing affordable family project located in San Francisco. Is one of the Hope 6 projects, one of the RAD conversion projects that will be coming through. There's 2 additional that will be coming through the pipeline, Hayes North and South. The project, San Francisco, as you all are aware, is a desirable area to live due to its strong employment as well as high resources. So the project was built in 2001 and consists of 160 units ranging from 1-bedrooms to 4-bedroom units that are 1 to 3 stories across 17 buildings. The project has a community area containing management offices, meeting spaces and kitchens. And the project also has an on-site child care center provided by the Head Start program that is available on a preference basis for the residents and other low-income families. The units have full kitchens with refrigerators, gas range, dishwashers, and garbage disposals, full baths, as well as laundry hookups, balconies or patios, and central heating. The project will undergo substantial rehabilitation of about $42 million total, or approximately $266,000 per unit. The exterior scope of work includes replacement of the existing exterior sidings, painting, windows, new windows, roof replacement, accessibility upgrades, landscape and stormwater management upgrades, energy efficient lighting, and water heater upgrades. All units will receive new kitchens, bathrooms, cabinets, sinks, vanities, as well as flooring, paint, and new high-efficient appliances. The work is anticipated to take approximately 18 months and will require temporary relocation with an estimated budget of $3.9 million, which will cover the cost of housing, packing, and living expenses while tenants are out during the renovation. The tenants will be temporarily relocated in nearby apartments for a period of approximately 4 weeks. The project is seeking CalHFA's conduit financing of $60.5 million and a first lien mortgage of $24.3 million, which is underwritten based on a combination of HUD's project-based Section 8, Section 18, and the RAD rental subsidy rent, and is amortized over 35 years, due in 17 years. CalHFA is also providing a subsidy loan of $3.5 million for a term of 55 years. And the repayment of the subsidy loan will be based on a pro rata share of the residual receipts repayment split between the subordinate loans from the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development and the San Francisco Housing Authority seller take-back note. So the San Francisco Housing Authority is subordinating, again, a seller take-back loan of $39.7 million, and the Mayor's Office of Housing of Community Development is subordinating a loan of $1.4 million. The property is being sold by the existing owner, which is the San Francisco Housing Authority, to the new borrower for $39 million via a seller take-back loan. And the bond regulatory agreement will restrict 40% of the units to 60% or lower of AMI, of which 10% will be restricted at 50% of AMI for 55 years. The subsidy loan will restrict 51% of the units at 80% of AMI. The operating reserve is sized to cover 6 months of operating expenses, debt service, and reserves. There is also a capitalized replacement reserves of $225,000 and an annual replacement reserves of $400 per year per unit. An appraisal was recently received, and the as restricted value of the project is $37.8 million, resulting in a loan to value of 64% for the first lien mortgage and 74% for the first lien mortgage combined with the CalHFA subordinate debt, the subsidy loan. All 159 units will be subsidized by either HUD's project-based Section 8, Section 18, or RAD rental subsidy for a term of 20 years, which expires after the maturity of the agency's first lien loan. In addition, the agency will require that the local funding regulatory agreements to contain provisions that would allow rents to increase if for some reason the rental subsidies are no longer available during the term of the contract. All rental subsidies also have an option to renew for an additional 20 years. The borrower is Bernal Homes LP, and the developer, again, is McCormick Barron Salliser. The property manager will be John Stewart Company, and the San Francisco Housing Development Corporation will provide on-site services for their residents. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions or comments for the project?
Sorry, I have a real basic question. Can you explain what the RAD program is? I don't.
Yeah, so I am going to defer that to one of the developers to talk about the RAD program, if you can.
And while he's coming up to
Yeah.
fully explain that, but it stands for Rental Assistance Demonstration Project. And it is the federal program that is coming in to allow for rehabilitation of traditional or conventional public housing units. So a conventional public housing unit is a unit that is owned by the housing authority, that is subject to an annual contributions contract. And historically, those annual contributions contract and those operating dollars for conventional public housing has never been enough. And so these units, the conventional public housing, quickly fall into disrepair because they never have enough operating costs. And so
run down in 20 years.
RAD is a way to bring in mixed financing to be able to redo those deals. And so I'll let him continue to speak to this, but the comment that I wanted to make is that 5 years ago, when we knew that RAD was coming out and that it was going to be a mechanism to utilize for the conversion of public housing to get muchly needed public housing stock rehabbed, I was very excited about CalHFA coming in and partnering with our housing authorities to make this happen, and that was 5 years ago. A little bit of history. I grew up in public housing. I was a Head Start kid. And to be able to sit here today and be able to actually see come to fruition the conversion and the rehabilitation of public housing stock with a Head Start unit in its, this is exactly the kind of deal that I think CalHFA should be here and our purpose of it and our very existence. Not only that, these are the kind of units that we started, or the types of developments we started using earned surplus for to fill in that gap for mixed income. This is a mixed income public housing in a high resource area. It's exactly what we want to do. And so prior to creating the mixed income program, we started using earned surplus to help these types of developments create mixed income opportunities. And so, like they said, they've been working on for 2 years on this. Well, I've been wanting it for 5. So I'm very excited. And so I'll turn it over to you so that you can fill in some of that, what you've been doing and what that means for public housing in San Francisco.
We never needed to come up to this desk here because you answered the question. Adi Nagaraj, Senior Vice President at McCormick Barron Salazar. It is really interesting when you take a step back and look at the history of how affordable housing was financed, that, and a lot of this is in Richard Rothstein's book, that it was direct allocations of public housing dollars to local housing authorities to build housing. And that started in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And then in the 70s, you get Section 8 vouchers under the Nixon administration. In the mid-80s, we had created this tax credit program under Reagan in 1986, which has proven to be a robust source and kind of structure to create and have great asset management long-term. And so I feel like this RAD conversion is kind of converting some of the old public housing allocations and practices into a more modern tax credit program with better, more reliable subsidies coming in, allowing for better management long-term. That was a great explanation, and I appreciate your personal story. I was not aware of that. I would just add a little bit of the San Francisco context to this, and then maybe Jimmy can talk a little bit about how it applies to the building. But in San Francisco, about 5 or 6 years ago, the former Mayor Lee kind of took the bold step of wanting to save public housing in San Francisco. A lot of the ACC subsidies that were mentioned were declining, and so as costs are escalating, and whether that's management costs, PG&E bills, whatever the operating costs are escalating, the ACC subsidies coming in don't offer the cash essentially necessary to take care of all the expenses on site, let alone social services or paying for good property management. Plus, you were unable to leverage debt off of these old ACC subsidies, conventional debt. You couldn't leverage tax credits off of these old subsidies. So we're really trying to convert this old program into the new tax credit program. Under Mayor Lee, there was a massive conversion of 28 public housing buildings in San Francisco from this kind of old ACC model into a tax credit program. So there are 28 buildings, 28 different limited partnerships, and over the course of 3 years, my former employer, Bridge Housing, we did about 7 of these 28 properties. There are a trailing few number of properties left in San Francisco that have not gone through this conversion to tax credits where you can leverage debt, get a lot more capital into the property. And Bernal Dwellings, which we're talking about now, is one of them. There are a few projects, Hayes South, Hayes North, that'll trail. So Bernal is one of the few remaining properties within San Francisco that is needing to go through a RAD refinancing. That was not a part of the big 28 building disposition that occurred a few years ago. So that's the San Francisco context. And then Jimmy, you can, if you can, speak a little bit more about RAD in the context of this property.
Yeah, sure. So just to add to a little bit about what Audie said, so I guess in terms of the ACC subsidy and how that's kind of goes back into the project on a reimbursement basis. So what you see with this project now is that since it's essentially sized to break even with the old Hope 6 model, you have a lot of deferred maintenance, which has kind of led us to where we are now, in which where the project needs additional funding from RAD, from Section 8, from tax credits in order to, I guess, in order to renovate the property, bring it back to, I guess, current code and whatnot. So in terms of, I guess, the kind of layout of how the project is, we do have 112 RAD units, and you know those units are going to be covered through a RAD HAP contract, and then the balance of the units, 47, as Sheena had mentioned, some of it's Section 18, some of it's Section 8, but for all intents and purposes, that's just a project-based voucher program. It's just the different sources of funding from which the housing authority is going to pull from. So that's all kind of like background information for us, but you know, at the end of the day, it's going to be 2 contracts. One is RAD and one is project-based vouchers. Yeah, so that's kind of how it is in terms of the contracts, and I can open it up to questions.
Yeah, and so, you know, again, so those contracts, the RAD subsidies plus the project-based subsidies help us generate on-site cash flow. And so in the pro forma, you'll see that there's a deduction for on-site expenses, and we're able to leverage permanent debt based on the NOI after going through the waterfall.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members?
Hello, gentlemen, and thank you for your bringing this project today. I am familiar with San Francisco and public housing, and I'm very excited that CalHFA is hopefully that we'll get a go vote. You're certainly going to get one from me, because I think this is a very important project, not just because it's delivering affordable housing, but it's delivering affordable housing in a community where there's been quite a bit of disenfranchisement, as you know. My question has to do with the seller note. I just didn't understand when you were explaining how that came to be. Can you just give us a little background about that and how that was developed and how you came up with that number?
Yeah, so the seller note is essentially it's the financing tool that you use to acquire the property. Mm-hmm. So in this instance, the acquisition value or the appraised value of the property, the land plus the improvements was, I believe, close to $40 million. Mm-hmm. So essentially how the seller note comes into play is there will be a note held by the housing authority who currently owns the land and also the improvements, and that would be held by the housing authority, but then the new owner, Bernal Homes LP, will have to, I guess, make mandatory payments on that. So it's essentially kind of like a mortgage to finance the acquisition. Mm-hmm. So it's essentially dollar for dollar equal to the appraised value of the property which we're acquiring.
Okay.
Yeah, so the partnership that we're a part of, it will own the improvements, will own the building, and with the value being of about $40 million, instead of us, sending over $40 million to the housing authority as the seller of the building, we're taking out a loan to acquire the building, and essentially the lender happens to be the housing authority. So it's called a seller note because it's the seller, the housing authority, who's providing the loan for us to acquire the property. And then, as Jimmy mentioned, over time we'll make payments on that loan.
Thank you. I understand that process. I just didn't understand how the amount was determined. But I think I heard you say it was based on the appraised value.
Exactly.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Great. No more questions. Is there a motion?
So moved. Oh, I'll second.
Chairman Gunning, may I interrupt? I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, the other voting member of the board has still not appeared, and we therefore do not have a quorum. So any motions taken, I would ask you to consider ruling they are out of order and may not be considered by the board at this time. Any substantive issues would need to be reconsidered in the presence of the full quorum, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
it's great. So we don't need motions.
It's an option. No, it'll be option.
No, I think,
You can have it pending. So you can make the motion second, have it pending, and then,
I think she said no on that. I think we won't make any more motions. We'll listen to all the presentations and then wait till we have a quorum and then take motions. Is that right, Counselor?
okay.
Thanks, though. Thank you, gentlemen.
If I could ask staff, have we heard from board member,
I texted her too.
was she due to attend? But Prince, Russell, they were all not expected to. Are there any other items?
Yes, one more.
Good morning. In full disclosure, I'd like to tell you that I forgot my glasses today.
So you can't see.
I'm going to be doing that, not because it's really cool, but
Can you see
because
this one better now?
Yeah, that's better. So we're gonna.
You mean to hold it over here?
Michael, maybe you can hold it for me.
I know, right?
I know. So, but here we go on Stone Pine Meadows. I'm Ruth Bikili, Multifamily Loan Officer, and good morning. Stone Pine Meadows is a project in Tracy, family project that's currently in our portfolio and has been in our portfolio since 2000. Oops, I did that.
Do you want me to do this for you?
Yes.
Should I click for you?
Not only am I visually challenged, but I'm click challenged. This one? Perfect, thank you. Okay, the project is located in Tracy, which is a desirable area in proximity to the Bay Area, somewhat of a commuter town to areas in the Bay Area. It has a strong employment base. It's a very suburban residential area. The project was built in 1999. It has 72 units, ranging from 1-bedroom to 4-bedroom units. It also has a community building containing management offices, meeting spaces, a kitchen, and a computer lab. All of the units will have full kitchens with refrigerator, gas range, dishwasher and garbage disposal, full baths, central heating, and air conditioning. The project will undergo moderate rehab of about $6 million. That's $262,000 per unit. The exterior scope of work will include replacing portions of the siding, exterior paint, window replacement, repairing driveways and sidewalks, landscape upgrades, new site lighting, a new solar system, and play equipment. All of the units will receive new paint, lighting, HVA systems, new high-efficiency water heaters, and on as-needed basis, the units will receive new appliances and upgraded bathrooms, which would include new flooring, cabinets, tubs, sinks, and vanities. The community building will also be upgraded, and the kitchen will be remodeled. The work is anticipated to take about 12 months, and it requires temporary relocation. There's a budget of $1.3 million, which will cover the cost of lodging, packing, and living expenses while tenants are out. They're expected to be out of the units 3 to 4 weeks total. They'll be relocated locally to open and available apartment units. CalHFA first mortgage of $2,946,000 is underwritten based on tax credit rents, amortized over 35 years and due in 20 years. The second mortgage is $643,000. It's based on a underwriting rents from the Section 8 contract on 17 of the units. And it is for a term of 12 years, which is sized to match the term of the Section 8 contract. It'll be fully amortizing, and when it pays off there will be 8 years remaining on the first mortgage. And at that time, debt coverage ratio based on project tax credit rents would be 1.19. We're also providing a subsidy loan of $2,390,000 with a pro rata share of residual receipts as a repayment structure, and that's split between the subordinate lenders and CalHFA. This loan is for a term of 40 years, and the City of Tracy is subordinating an existing loan of $2.6 million, and San Joaquin County is subordinating 2 loans of nearly $700,000. So those other loans will also share in residual receipts repayment over the term of their loan. The project is currently owned by SPM Housing Associates and sold to the new borrowing entity. SPM Housing will provide a $4.1 million seller carryback loan for 55 years and calculated in the same way that the previous project was calculated, being a $10 million sales price, and then after taking away the cost of the CalHFA loan repayment and the loans that are resubordinating from the City of Tracy and the County of San Joaquin, that results in a $4.1 million seller carryback loan. CalHFA will restrict 40% of the units to 60% AMI. 10% of those units will be at 50% AMI, and restrictions will be for a term of 55 years. The subsidy loan will restrict 51% of the units to 60% AMI. Within the budget, we have sized a operating reserve for 3 months, and there's also a capitalized replacement reserve of $72,000. The annual replacement reserve deposit will be $500 a unit, and this will assist in replacements that are necessary over the next 20 years of the project. We did recently receive an appraisal, and the value is $8.3 million. The loan to value for the first mortgage is 35%, and all the loans combined together, loan to value is 72% for the CalHFA loans only. And according to the appraisal, the project's rents are between 34 to 76% of market rents. So the rents are very affordable for this area. The borrower is Stone Pine Meadows 2, and developer is Eden Housing. The property manager is also Eden Housing Management, and Eden Housing is a developer that CalHFA has worked with successfully over the past many years. Are there any questions on this project?
Ruth, under project weaknesses, would you just expand upon that for me? I'm not sure I'm following the tranche B and tranche A.
The tranche A, no, I actually can't see it, so I'm just kind of.
You know, even better.
I have nothing to read by.
See?
But the tranche A is based on the tax credit rents, and we sized the tranche B just based on the cash flow from the contract rents. And the term of that loan is for 12 years, set to mature at the same time that the contract expires. The contract didn't have an automatic renewal, so we did separate out the 2 loans.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? Great. Anything else to present?
That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So do any of these projects that you all presented have a timing issue that they have to close before the end of the year, in which we need to get them voted on. Because I think this may be the first time we haven't actually had a quorum when we had a project.
Yeah, I have to.
So, yes, Bernal, they're scheduled to close on the 13th, and I believe it's triggered by the RAB requirement, correct? That's correct. Yeah. So there is a time.
The 13th of December?
Yes, December.
Is there a way to do an email vote?
No.
Can we do one by phone?
News, Melissa?
No, no new news.
She hasn't returned a text. I text her.
We do have have we posted our agenda for the December 19th meeting?
So we have not. We have a December 19th workshop that we're working on, which we could make a general meeting as opposed to just a workshop. And we have not posted that. The agenda and notice needs to be out by Monday. So we have a little window here where we could do that. I was just talking to the developer of Bernal, and they have a tighter timeline than that, unfortunately. They're,
because it's the 13th.
Yeah. So I'd like to poll the board members that are here today to see if, and we could do this after the end of the meeting, but just to see what your availability is for the remainder of this week and the very latest on Monday of next week, because if I can get a majority of you all to be able to call another meeting, Claire and I will need to consult and see if it can fall under a special or emergency meeting, under the special or emergency meeting statutes. If it does, then maybe we can get a shorter turnaround. I think then we have to have a...
So can you tell me what the posting requirement to meet the state open meeting laws?
It's 10 days notice for any general meeting. There are a couple of, I'm sorry, Claire, but there are a couple of other statutes that allow us to have emergency meetings, and we just need to see if that qualifies. And then there's a, is it 72 or 48 hour notice? It's either 72 or 48 hour notice.
I think it's 3 days.
Under emergency?
72, yeah. So,
What
so that
about
gives...
a voice vote or phone meeting? Are we allowed to do that?
We
If it's
can,
for vote
do
only?
we can do teleconference. We still have the same issue where we have to notice it, and that
That's
location
fine.
needs to be available to the public as well. So yeah, so if we could get some board members that are from Southern California that don't need to come up and don't want to, we could find a location that could be held in a public setting and still do a teleconference as well. Mm-hmm.
So we think the emergency is 72 hours?
We'll verify that, but I believe it's 72 hours notice.
Mr. Chair, what I would recommend is that we have an emergency meeting for either this Thursday or Friday, that we get it posted today, and that we confirm that with legal counsel, and that we make a public meeting space in Southern California available for our Southern California members to be able to call in, and that we could have a space here, and we would be able to have, that would be my recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Or even CalHFA offices.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
any public locations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would just need to make sure I can verify that I can get enough board members there. So I would need to determine what that date and time would work for a majority of the board members.
And have we concluded that there's not at least one board member available now to call
So
in?
Claire has verified that it is 48-hour notice, which actually helps for a special meeting. Now we need to look at the requirements.
Yeah, but we didn't.
Melissa, Jovan asked a good
notice it.
question. Is there a board member that we could call in now? Could Anna Maria call in now?
We couldn't do that because it would be considered teleconferencing, and
Got
we'd
it.
have to have noticed
Got it,
that and
got
allow
it.
the public to be wherever she is at.
Mhm.
Yeah, that.
Got it.
So my recommendation is that you continue items 4, 5, 6, action item, and 7.
And then there's also a different one, number 8, but
It's an action item?
it is, but it's not any urgent situation.
Well, let's do it all at the same time, because
Okay.
we've done presentations for all of them.
4
So,
through
Mr. Chair, my recommendation would be to continue items 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 to the next available emergency meeting, after a polling of the board members and the appropriate noticing that needs to be done pursuant to state law. But that would be my recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Any other thoughts from the board members?
No, I think Tia's recommendation is appropriate.
Agreed. Okay, Claire, do we have to do anything official? Do I say we can't motion it, so it'll just be an action?
It's a continued action by the chair to continue those items to the next agendized emergency meeting.
So be it. That's it.
And so we have the developer who wanted to speak.
Yeah, sure, just through the chair. Thank you for the desire to expedite and just let you know our timeline. HUD, who's a major party to the Burnham project, kind of shuts down starting December 16th for 3 weeks or so. And so we were looking to close escrow. Adi Nagraj, Senior Vice President, McCormick Barron Salazar. We were looking to close escrow on December 13th, putting documents into escrow on Tuesday, December 10th. Meaning ideally a positive vote from the board if we're able to achieve that by December 9th would be ideal and would prevent us from delaying closing to next year.
We're going to shoot for the 5th or 6th.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Give us a little cushion.
Thank you.
So, one point, we haven't heard motion 8.
Did we not hear item 8 yet?
We have not heard it, but there.
It's not a project? What is item 8?
It's for the Executive Evaluation Committee report out by me.
Oh, okay.
And
Do you want to continue that?
It can
Okay.
be continued.
We're going to continue that.
Or we can stop it now. I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
But let's
Continue.
continue it.
Continue 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Good. Council, anything else?
So council, would it be more appropriate to adjourn this meeting? Or would it be more appropriate to recess and just continue under a notice? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish that. Any other items of discussion from board members? If not, or public comment?
I did have
Yes.
something I wanted to say. I just wanted to thank the CalHFA organization, the family, the staff members and such for their offer of condolences to the Blackwell Garza Hall family at the loss of one of our young members. We do sincerely appreciate it. The flowers were beautiful. They were as large as I am, as tall as I am. And we were able to have those on display at the family memorial, which we sincerely appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry for your
Our
loss.
condolences.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. With that, we're hereby adjourned.